Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be testing out Molly Baz's recipe for Earl Grey Yogurt Cake. So this is the second recipe in Basically's Better Baking series, and last week I asked all of you whether you wanted to see this recipe or BA's Best Snickerdoodles recipe for the next video, and this is what you chose, so that's what we're doing today. However, the vote was really close between the two, so I will do that Snickerdoodle video next week. If you didn't see the poll, that means you're not subscribed, so if you want to be able to vote next time, be sure to click the subscribe button. Not only will that allow you to vote in future polls, but it'll ensure that you don't miss out on new videos, because I put out new videos every single Wednesday. So without any further ado, let's jump right into this recipe. The first thing we're going to do is combine our dry ingredients. So in a medium-sized mixing bowl, I've got AP flour, kosher salt, baking soda, and baking powder, and we're going to just whisk these together to get them thoroughly combined. And this is evenly mixed, so we can go ahead and set it aside and move on to the wet ingredients. For the wet ingredients, I'm taking a large mixing bowl and we're going to add in the granulated sugar along with 2 large eggs. And I've got my eggs at approximately room temperature. The recipe didn't specify room temperature, however, typically with baking you do want your ingredients around room temp, so the eggs are close to room temperature. Alright, and the recipe indicates that we need to whisk this vigorously for 1 full minute, and it specifies that we should be timing it. So I'm going to set my timer for exactly 1 minute, and we'll get whisking. And the visual cue that we're looking for after 1 minute is for this to be very light pale yellow and look frothy. After 30 seconds, I think it's looking like we're there, but I'm going to keep going for the full minute, and that is 1 full minute. So you can see this is definitely very light and frothy. It looks like it's kind of gotten aerated a little bit. I think the volume increased as well. So that looks good there, and at this point we're going to whisk in our plain yogurt. This is plain unsweetened full-fat yogurt. If you want to use Greek yogurt, that would be okay here. I think the recipe called out that that was a fine substitution. Either that or their Instagram story, so whatever you have on hand is fine. I'm using just regular yogurt because it's a little bit thinner texture, and I think that will be easier to incorporate into this mixture. We also need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Since this is an Earl Grey tea cake, obviously we need to add some Earl Grey tea. I couldn't find loose leaf tea at a normal grocery store, so I'm using tea bags here. The recipe gives a simple conversion between loose leaf tea or tea bags. We're going to do some surgery here. I need a 1/4 cup of tea bag leaves. So in total, that was a dozen tea bags. And now we're going to dump the leaves directly in here, and we're going to whisk this to combine. And those tea leaves look evenly distributed to me. With the tea leaves evenly incorporated, we can stream in the vegetable oil. You can see here I'm using my stabilizer. This is the silicone bowl holder. If you don't have one of these, you could use a damp kitchen towel, and that'll keep your bowl from sliding around. You need both hands free to be able to whisk and stir at the same time, so whatever works for you. So we're just going to gradually stream this through, whisking the entire time. Alright, so the wet ingredients are now ready. I've got the dry ingredients we prepared, so all at once we're just dumping the dry into the wet. And we're going to whisk this gently to get everything evenly incorporated. This mixture is looking great. Now we can go ahead and pour it into our prepared loaf pan. So you've seen me do this several times on quick bread videos. So it's just a standard loaf pan, oil lined with parchment paper. And we're going to go ahead and scrape the mixture in. All right, so now we're going to give this a little tap to release any air bubbles. It's already a pretty level surface, so I think we look good there. And now here I've got sugar in the raw. If you wanted to use granulated sugar, you could use that as well. It's 1 tablespoon in total. And this is going to give us just some sparkling crunch on the top of the bread, so that'll be really nice. You want to get as even a coating as you can. If you have too much kind of concentrated in any one area, it's going to just sit on the surface and not kind of crisp up, and it's not going to melt in, so you will have a visible sugar blob presence. Alright, so now I'm going to pop this into my preheated 325-degree oven for about an hour. We're looking for a toothpick into the center to come out cleanly. So this cake baked for a total of 1 hour and 5 minutes. The recipe specified about an hour and that we had a visual cue of a clean toothpick. So I checked at 55 minutes, it wasn't ready. 1 hour, still not quite there. An hour 5, it looked perfect, so that's when I pulled it. So this has been sitting at room temperature now for 15 minutes, so we are going to now take a dinner knife, run this along the 2 short edges of the pan where we don't have parchment paper preventing sticking from occurring. And now we're going to lift this out. So our handy little parchment paper handles there make it nice and easy. And now we can go ahead and get this off the parchment and let it cool completely on a wire rack. So this cake has been cooling at room temperature for a full hour. Looking at the texture inside here, it's pretty dense, typical of, I guess, like a normal quick bread. As I was cutting it, it wasn't really falling apart, so it feels like it's going to be a pretty moist cake, which I would expect given the yogurt in here. I do see a visible presence of the tea leaves, so it has a nice kind of speckled appearance. And the crust on the top from that raw sugar is nice and crispy. As I was cutting through it, it was kind of crackling a little bit. So overall, I have kind of high expectations for how this texture experience is going to work out. Don't know if I should eat it with a fork. I feel like it's bread kind of, but it's called a cake, so I'm using a fork because that feels appropriate. So this is the bottom corner. So this has the nice golden caramelization from where it was in contact with the pan. So it has a nice golden color. Definitely getting a tea flavor. It's really nice. This would definitely be good toasted with butter on it. Let's try a piece from the top with the sugar. That's what's up. The sugar is nice and crispy. It's got a crunch to it. I like the texture at the top much more than the texture at the bottom. This would be really good actually if, like with this swirled sesame cake that was that Claire made, if you sprinkled the inside of this loaf pan with some sugar in the raw before pouring the batter, and that would give you a sugary coating around the outside. I think that'd be really pleasant, and it would enhance that crispiness because the crispiness is very, very nice. The bottom's fine too. It's just kind of like whatever. I mean, it's a tasty bread. I'm not really sure what the point of this is though. I think it's like a snacking cake because it's not sweet. It's not a cake that you would have for dessert. This feels like just a midday cake, which I mean, I'm on board with that, but I don't really know what the occasion is. I do like it though. It's very pleasant. I think the end result was great. Came together so quickly. So, I mean, overall, so I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.